Statements from the candidates, and then I'll close the meeting. So what I'd like to do is introduce our pastor, Ken Culver, to come up and say our opening prayer.
Would you all stand and pray with me? Lord Jesus, what a special privilege we have to come to you and to bow before you as our sovereign God, to thank you for loving us and for coming to us and for doing for us what we could never have done for ourselves. We thank you tonight for this forum. We know, Lord, we're grateful for this great country in which we live and the freedoms that we enjoy. But we know, Lord, that we have a responsibility as citizens of this great nation, and that is to make sure that those that are put in political office are those that will honor you and will seek to follow your pattern and your biblical precepts and principles. We know, Lord, you have established this country with our founding fathers on your word. So I pray that tonight you would help us to focus on what is right. I pray that you give the candidates clarity of thought to be able to communicate their message of what they, Lord, believe is your design and plan for them to the position to which they are aspiring. We pray, Lord, that you would just give all of us an attentiveness and an awareness of this very critical time, this very critical election, and that, Lord, you would help us to seek to honor you in all that we say and do. And we praise you and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Now, if you'll remain standing, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Howell.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're all ready to get started. In order to kind of keep things in a timely manner, I want to let the candidates know that we've got some timekeepers here, and they'll be holding up the cards to let us know when there's 15 seconds left and so forth, so please kind of pay attention to that. And I will ring the bell, that's right, okay. All right, so I'm going to let our candidates come up one at a time, and they'll have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and briefly tell us why they're running for office, why they think they're qualified.
How you doing? My name's Dave, and I'm not a politician. Sorry I didn't meet you all in the meet and greet. I was working up on an appointment until about 30 minutes ago, but I'm just a citizen, and I believe in we the people. And America is singing a song, and the song that they're singing today is an anthem that's going across the United States. And it sounds something like this. We're not gonna take it. No, no, no. We're gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. America's sick and tired of politics as usual. Politicians that say one thing and do another. Well, I'm just a working man who has simple Christian values. My daddy and granddaddy were both preachers. So I believe in an America that is free, an America that is true, an America that stands for something in this world, an America that stays free religiously, an America that protects our rights to bear arms. I believe in an America where our Congress does something and does not stay inactive. And I believe today that I can lead, that I can stand, that I can fight. Whether it's a President Trump or, God forbid, a President Clinton, we need a man in this office that is willing to stand and have a voice for the people. A voice to stand up and say, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to stand for politics and business as usual. We are not going to accept the results of the past 8 years. We are going to turn those around and turn our country around. We're not going to take it anymore. Thank you all. God bless America.
Can you all hear me all right? I'm Tom Leatherwood. I ran my first race in 1992. I was teaching at Millington High School, My 27-year Republican incumbent state senator sponsored an income tax. Nobody was challenging him. I stepped up, beat him in the primary, defeated the income tax. In '99, when our Republican Governor Don Sundquist pushed and proposed an income tax, I again, this time with fellow state senators, defeated it a second time. In the state Senate, I was on the Finance Committee, where I had to produce, balance, and pass the budget. I've got the experience to do the same in D.C. I've got the wisdom, discernment, the proven wisdom and discernment to make those decisions, the ability to tell people no, and pass the budget in D.C. It can be done. I also made the promise in the state Senate I would serve no more than 8 years, and I would not go back as a lobbyist or a consultant. I kept my word. You can trust me on this. And you can trust me again when I tell you I will limit myself to no more than 8 years in Congress. I will not go back as a lobbyist or a consultant. And this is important because too many of our politicians cast their votes to take care of their donors and take care of the people they hope will be their future employers. I will not do that. You can trust me on this. Our Constitution is under attack. Our Second Amendment is very clear. We have the right to bear arms and shall not be infringed. I will protect the Second Amendment. Life begins at conception. I will protect that unborn life. Marriage in our culture is being perverted. I will protect the Christian values this country was based on. I've got the experience to get the job done in D.C. You can trust me to get that job done in D.C. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Tim Atkins. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Fayette County. About 3 years ago, I moved to Fayette County from Covington, Tennessee. Everybody's been nice to me. I got great neighbors, and I like it. It feels good. I moved out in the country and got a modest little place, and I moved here from Covington, where I located in 1990. Bought a Chevrolet dealership called Atkins Brothers. Had that for several years, and have done different things since. Now, she asked, why am I running for Congress? I was thinking one day, in 2010, we elected enough so-called conservative Republicans, and we took over the House, and then in 2014 we took over the Senate. And let me ask you, did they do what they said they were going to do? No. It's like handing a dog a steak and then getting bit during the exchange. That's the way I thought about it. Okay, I'm going to contrast myself as well as I'm not a politician, but I have a vision for West Tennessee. I have a vision. This is what my vision is. And I'll say also, understand all the conservative things, how to vote on fiscal, social issues, foreign affairs. I got all that. I think everybody in this room has all that. So what do I do every day when I get up? I work for you. I work for you, the people. I bring jobs. That's my deal. I'll be on the phone every day talking to people, talking to industry, talking to small business, medium-sized business, technology. We can make West Tennessee great. It already is great. We can make it great. And that'll be my job. And a vote, let me say this, a vote for Ken Atkins is a vote for yourself.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dick Cotto, and certainly to the Fayette County Republican Club and Republican Party. Thank you for this opportunity for us, once again, as candidates to present ourselves to you. I'm a product of West Tennessee. Born in Jackson, raised over in Bells, Tennessee, graduated from Union University, have lived in Shelby County a good part of my life. I've experienced the rural life of the 8th District and the urban life. What this congressman needs is someone who can view the problems that are facing us as a nation and as a district from both perspectives. I've served as a school teacher. I've served honorably in the United States Army. I'm a veteran. I've been a military policeman. I've been a prison warden. I've been a sheriff. I'm now a county mayor. Now, every one of us up here are proven conservatives. We wouldn't be in this race if we weren't conservatives, and you wouldn't tolerate us if we weren't conservatives. So what distinguishes us from each other? I think you look at our records. You look at what we've accomplished, you look at what we've proposed. I've had the pleasure of serving in administrative capacities over large federal agencies. I'm pleased to say that I have cut budgets, I've reduced the size of government, I have reduced taxes, I have paid down debt, I have lived within our means, I've returned money to the citizens. That is proven record. You deserve a congressman who knows how to go to Washington, who knows how to look at things from a managerial standpoint, who knows how to look at things from a constitutional standpoint, who has discernment that can make decisions that are in your best interest. That's why we stand for election every 2 years, because it requires us to come back to you for the affirmation that we need to continue to do our job. I look forward to serving you in Congress. I look forward to representing the values of the 8th District, which are conservative values that have made America great. I look forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Honeycutt. Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm George Howell. Thank you for letting me come tonight and for your attendance here. I've been blessed to be married to my best friend Wendy for the last 30 years, and we have 5 wonderful kids. Like many of the others, I am not a politician. So what makes me want to do this? I'm not good at doing speeches either. As a politician, I did learn contributing to my father, who supported the Ronald Reagan campaign back in the 70s, encouraging him to run. I myself was learning values in gymnastics, being a 2-time national champion, so I learned all about adversity and perseverance and success, winning 2 national championships. Right now, nervous as all get out. Apologize for that. I learned my degree. I got my degree in industrial engineering at Oklahoma University. I got an MBA at Indiana University. I've been putting those skills to work in manufacturing for the last 35 years. I will use the same principles I've been doing in manufacturing to the federal government. That's why I've got a 3-year plan to go from a $5 billion deficit to a $300 billion surplus in 3 years. You can review the outline of that on my website, howellforcongress.com. So I'm not talking about theory or anything like that. I'm putting actual numbers out there for you. I believe that the root cause of our problem is not Obamacare or anything like that, but it is that we've gotten away from our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence as how we govern. I promise and pledge to you, if elected as your representative, that I will not be bought by the establishment. I will fight for single-issue bills to get rid of the poor. I will not accept the overly generous government retirement package that is not deserved by anyone up there in D.C. I will fight for no exemptions to all government workers on laws they pass for everyone but themselves. Thank you.
I'm George Flinn. I'm running for Congress, and I believe 2 things. Number one, I believe our country's headed in the wrong direction. And number 2, the political system to fix this is totally broken. Why do I say it's broken? Well, I've run before, and the political pros say I'm not a politician. And I believe that because I believe for years that the system is broken. And finally, I believe everyone's saying that now. It's popular to say the system is broken. Why is it broken? Well, politicians wait. They wait for the right time to run. They wait for the right time to run for the next office. They wait for the right time to fix things. When it will get, right before election, a lot of things get brought up. Healthcare. Where are we with healthcare? Do you think it's broken? I do. National security. Is it broken? When I see a large tractor tire being drug around the Rio Grande, the border, just so they can count the footprints of people coming in, that's all our national security has. The national debt, oh, it's doing fine. No, it's rising. The system is broken. I'm saying we can do something about it. I'm a radiologist. I used to be an electrical engineer, then became a radiologist. And then I went back to engineering. I love radio and TV stations, so I've done well. I'm financing my own campaign. I don't want to be beholden to anybody but the voters. Not special interest groups, not special money. I want to answer to you. I'm George Flinn. I'm running for Congress because this political system is broken, but it doesn't have to be. Thank you.
And now, Mr. Redmond.
My name is Raymond Honeycutt. I am not a politician. I am a retired banker. I handled high finance at National Bank of Commerce in Memphis. Customers were MLG&W, all these builders who built these large subdivisions, universities, schools, and that sort of thing. The reason I'm running is, well, I'm mad as hell at people like these who claim they're not politicians, but they are, and they haven't done anything like they promised. So I think I have the schooling, the experience, the knowledge. I've studied economics. That's how the economy works. And it's not going to get any better than it is today. Take my word for it. The government will say that things are getting better and we got 5% employment and all that kind of stuff, and it's probably 50%, or probably not that drastic, but 30%. Because they're not counting everybody who's unemployed. So what I want to do is bring jobs back to America, and I know how to do that. There are 3 or 4 different ways. You either give an ultimatum to the corporations that are in China, Mexico, Canada, and other places in the world that they have to come back, or else they suffer a high tax. Or you just devalue our dollar against theirs, and their goods will be too expensive for anybody to buy. So I want to do that. I want to try to bring back some sensibility and make this country great again before it falls over the cliff. Thank you.
I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and I'm running for Congress because West Tennessee deserves a congressman with a proven conservative record. It's easy when you're running for office to say that you're going to be a conservative, and we've elected a whole bunch of those, and we've sent it up there to Washington, and what have they done? Absolutely nothing. It's time to put somebody up there who is going to be a proven conservative who can get results for the conservative cause. And I've proven that that's what I'll do for you. I passed a constitutional amendment here in this state to forever ban a state income tax. That is a proven conservative result. I have A ratings from the NRA. I have a 100% voting record from Right to Life. I also have from the NFIB, the organization that protects our small businesses that bring most of our jobs here to West Tennessee. I have not only the highest voting record that they give, but also the highest award that they give to only a handful of legislators in Nashville. Now, I've fought against Democrats, and I've fought against establishment Republicans as well, to stop Obamacare from further expanding into this state. I've been to your Republican Party events here in Fayette County for many years. I have watched with joy this county turn from blue to red. But I'm back here one more time tonight to ask you for something this time. I'm here to ask for your vote to send me to Washington. Because this country is headed in the wrong direction. And if we're going to get it turned around, it's going to take someone with a proven conservative record and with common sense West Tennessee values to turn it around. And that's exactly what I've proven that I will do for you. So I'm here to ask for your vote again. Brian Kelsey for Congress. Thank you.
Mr. Brad Greer.
No kidding, I could get up here and give every one of these guys speeches for them. It's unbelievable. We're having to go all through the district and share our message. It's really nice. There's some nice guys running. My candidacy is a little different. I am a small business guy. Grew up in Union City, Tennessee. Was born in Arkansas, but I grew up in Union City. And I now live in Jackson, Tennessee with my wife, Jennifer, who's running through the campaign trail with me. We're just having a great time because we like meeting people. We like hearing what people's concerns are. Now, I will say at this forum, when I walked in, I thought, okay, we've got somebody who's very brave here. There's a gentleman down here wearing a Hillary t-shirt. I don't know if y'all saw that, but I had to look closely at it because it actually is, we have a twisted sister in the race. You brought it up earlier when you sang the song, and it's Hillary Clinton. But what his shirt says is Hillary for Prison 2016. At first I thought you were brave, and then I thought, no, you're just looking for everybody to be on your side, and we are. Folks, we are, as everybody said, we're headed in the wrong direction. And the question is, how are we going to do something about it? And as your congressman, I can tell you one thing I can do that I can say positively, and I absolutely intend to do as your congressman, is to have the best constituent services that this district has ever seen. Now, we all talk about how we're going to vote when we go to D.C., and absolutely that is part of it. But what I'm focusing in on is the people, and what I'm finding is that through the counties, and I'm obviously from a rural area, being from Union City, I'm finding that people are hurting. NAFTA gutted this nation. It gutted the jobs, and it was a bunch of politicians making a bunch of decisions because they compromised and they sent our jobs elsewhere. Folks, I want to work on jobs, and I want strong constituent services, and I ask for your vote. My name is Brad Greer. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is David Kustoff, and I'm a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment former prosecutor. And I'm going to fight to secure our borders. I'm going to fight against Obama's amnesty. I'm going to fight to destroy Islamic radical terrorism and stop the Clinton-Obama agenda. As a former prosecutor, former United States attorney, I know what it takes to fight public corruption. I'm proud of the fact that because of our efforts, I oversaw the majority of the Tennessee Waltz cases that sent John Ford and other defendants to federal prison. Here's my pledge to you. I'm going to fight to secure our borders. Let's let those who work hard and contribute to our economy, they stay here. Let's get the lawbreakers out. Obama has failed badly with no plan, no agenda, no proposed legislation, no negotiation with Congress, just an executive order. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not immigration reform, that's lawlessness. I pledge to you that I'm going to fight to repeal and completely overhaul the disaster that we call Obamacare. It's simple. We need to put individuals in charge of their own health care decisions, not bureaucrats in Washington. We've got to replace it with common sense marketplace reforms. I'm going to work with you all to get rid of the federal mandates that have been dictated by executive order. Ladies and gentlemen, the power is not in Washington, D.C. It is right here in this room. I'm going to work with you to lead in Congress and be proud to be your congressman. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to say what a great event we've had and a great turnout we've had. And I've got 2 minutes to tell you about myself and to convince you to pull the lever for David Wharton when you go in the booth. Me and Trump to Washington. I'm born in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. I've lived in Union City almost all of my life. I've worked all over the United States. I was in the construction industry and I built commercial buildings mostly, and I was a pipe fitter and a welder. I did that for many years, and then I sold cars for 2 years, and then I went to work at Goodyear, and Goodyear closed down. I went to college, and 2.5 years I went through college, and I got my finance, my accounting, and my economics degree as well. I'm currently have passed all of the CPA exams, and I am currently in my internship. So by the time that I go to Washington as your representative, I will be a licensed CPA in the state of Tennessee. Now, I have been conservative all of my life. I am a Reagan guy. I grew up when Reagan came on the scene. I graduated high school in 1979 when we had Jimmy Carter and Reagan came to our rescue, and for the next 20 years we had a wonderful, wonderful world in America. But America is going, everyone knows that, everyone has said it, we're all going the wrong way. But what I can assure you is that there's not much more conservative than an accountant. I like to read balance sheets, I like to read profit and loss statements, I eat this stuff for breakfast. So I would never vote for anything, not just a second, not just pro-life, anything that violates our Constitution of our United States of America. The Constitution is the supreme law, and without that, everything else goes to waste. If we cannot uphold the basis, the bottom of our law, we are in trouble. Thank you.
And Mr. Hunter.
Hello. First, I want to congratulate you on your civic virtue for coming out here tonight. Our republic was actually intended for a free and virtuous people, citizens, not subjects, people who understood government. That's what you're doing here tonight. I'm a professor at Union. I teach politics. I have spoken all over the country, written books, magazine articles, largely on the topic of religion and liberty. And that's a big part of why I'm running right now. I think that right now, at this moment, religious liberty is in crisis in the United States. I think that the government has become more ambitious, is more strongly aligned against the church and against church ministries than it ever has been. The Bible says to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. And I think that the government, the state, is overreaching. The state is redefining that doesn't belong to the state. The state is redefining gender that doesn't belong to the state. The state should not have the power to tell a florist that they have to do flowers for a gay wedding or bake a cake for a gay marriage ceremony. These things are an overreach. Second thing, pro-life. Hillary Clinton has said that the unborn child has no constitutional rights. That is absolutely incorrect. Roe is an unjust law. Aquinas, Augustine, Martin Luther King Jr., an unjust law is no law at all. It must be repealed. And finally, young people. We are presenting our young people. They sit down for dinner and we give them the bill for the 15 parties in front of them. That's entirely wrong. We have got to get the government under control. Fortunately, there's one thing we can do about all of these things, and that is to return to a constitutional form of government and have a smaller government. We can respect religious liberty, we can detach Planned Parenthood from the mother's milk of government spending, and we can control our budgets. Thank you.
Well done, candidates. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to proceed now with our first round of questions. Led by the panel.
Okay, we have a lot of very good questions. Some of them are very similar to each other, so we've been working to combine them. So here's the first question. What role do you see the federal government playing in education? And in the same vein, what would you do to help us in Fayette County with the needs of our school system?
We start with Mr. Baker and kind of go back this way for 2 minutes.
Well, look, the first thing I'll say about that is that the Federal Department of Education was a campaign promise by Jimmy Carter in 1976 to the teachers' unions. So I would argue that the federal role in education is actually not all that important, not really constitutional, and that we don't really need it. I think that parents are the primary movers in a child's education. And in my mind, the best thing that we could do is to have educational choice in all of its forms, including charter schools, private schools. And I think that out of that competition, we'll see something emerge that is much better for our students and will help prepare them for the future.
This is one of my favorite subjects. I read a textbook, and it's a Common Core textbook, and it had the Second Amendment stated there. And it said the Second Amendment is for a militia to right to bear arms. And that's what it said. It says the right to bear arms for militia. Now, enough said about that. But The Department of Education has to be done away with. It has to be done away with immediately, gone, rip it off like a Band-Aid, it's done. And we need to have the money remain in the states, in the counties, that goes to education. Education belongs at the local level. We know how we want our children educated. The founders of our country, they all were very highly educated people, and they read Basquiat. They read the Greek history, the Roman Empire. These things are important to be taught, and they're not being taught to our children anymore. We have to return education to the states. The money has to stay with the states. We cannot have the government committing blackmail with our tax money. This is our tax money that we have had to divert to Washington, and then Washington has to divert it back to the states, back to the counties, back to the cities. This has to be done away with. All these layers and layers and layers of administration are extremely expensive, and we have to cut this administration out, remain with education, remain at the local level. We know how to educate our kids. Common Core has got to go as well. We've got to get rid of Common Core, because this is nothing but a book deal with the bookmakers and the federal government. And so I believe we've got to get education back to the local level. We've got to keep the money at the local level. And I also have a tax plan to do that as well. I hope we get to talk about later. Thank you.
Here's the answer, is that some federal bureaucrat in Washington doesn't need to be telling the people in Fayette County or Tipton County or any other county how to best educate their children. I said that you all are the power. Your school board knows. The Tipton County School Board knows. The Shelby County School Board knows. The Dyer County School Board knows. There's some federal bureaucrat in Washington a few weeks ago that drew up the rules on transgender bathrooms. I don't know that we need a Department of Education. I for sure know that the Department of Education doesn't need to dictate to our school boards how to best educate their children.
Brad Greer, running for Congress. I would get confused if I were sitting out there. There's just too many of us. I think we need more of what's going on in Fayette County. See, what Fayette County did was they took the whole transgender background thing, and the county commission said, yeah, we're just not doing that. And if you watched, Fayette County Commission said, yeah, we're not going to follow what Obama thinks about we need extra backgrounds for people who have extra issues. That is the type of thing that needs to happen, and that's what you did. Now, Fayette County has got issues when it comes to education. Those of you who live in Fayette County, you know it. We faced a very similar issue in Jackson because we sat under a desegregation lawsuit for over 60 years. You can't imagine the amount of money that was spent on that, but you're spending it right now. We had some hotshot lawyer out of Memphis that was coming into Jackson, keeping the NAACP stirred up for that desegregation lawsuit. And what we did in Jackson was we finally worked through the process and we stood the bully down. We stood up and looked at him and just said, no, we're not putting up with it anymore. And we got with some of our community leaders from all different walks of life, and we said, we've got to lick this issue so that we can get to the business of educating children. Jennifer and I have 5 children in the public education system. Now 2 are graduated and have gone on to other things, but we're about to graduate 3 children right in a row. Education is one of my hot topic issues, and absolutely, as others have said, Washington, D.C. has no business in the education of our children. Get them out of it. They don't have any business. And furthermore, I'm not real interested in the state and Haslam and different ones trying to tell us what to do when it comes to educating our children. We do need, thank you, I agree with it. Yeah, let's see, you agree with it. But I'm getting flashed on the time here. I could go on about this topic for a while. Be glad to talk with you afterwards if you have further questions about my stances on education.
The best thing that the federal government can do to help education in Fayette County is to get the heck out of the way. And that's exactly what the federal government needs to do. Stop sending these mandates to our local school boards. And I'm proud to tell you that I've done something about it. Once again, I'm not only just talking about being a conservative, but I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and I'm here to tell you about what I have done and the results that I've gotten as a conservative. With your help, we passed a bill through the legislature that says that if a local school board wants to tell the federal government no and wants to reject those federal funds, then it will not have to follow those federal guidelines. That's the type of attitude that we need to be sending to Washington, someone who can get conservative results. So I hope to have you vote State Senator Brian Kelsey.
Well, if you send me to Washington, I will help to destroy the Department of Education. And that will allow the local communities to manage their own school systems. And one of the guys here, he's trying to destroy the school system over in Shelby County, Park Luttrell. They're trying to reduce the salary of teachers and benefits by something like $80 million. That do a lot of damage to it. So you vote some of these career politicians into office and you'll get a big dose of that. I say, get rid of the Department of Education. That's the key to this whole thing. And you won't have anything else to worry about. You just do the school systems like you want to.
Yeah, I'm George Flinn, running for Congress, and I tell you what, this business about the Department of Education, that is just a symptom. You know, if you have a basic disease, as a doctor, I can tell you, if you have a basic disease, you have symptoms out there, and we're going to treat the symptom. No, the system's broken. The system, how do you think we got to the, we heard how we got to the Department of Education, and what it's doing to us, it is bullying us. It is a bully. It is a symptom of the government saying, we know better how to spend your money, how to educate your kids, how to do everything. They're saying, you're not smart enough to do it. And I'm saying, we are. We are at the local level. We know what we're doing. We know what our kids need. Our kids don't need the same thing as somebody in Wyoming or New York or California. Our kids need our values. We have values. We have religious values. We have pro-life values. We have pro-Second Amendment values. And that's where the system is broken. And we can fix it. First thing, of course, get rid of the Department of Education. It can go. It's a big building there. It's on, and they call it Merlin. Well, it's Maryland. It's on Maryland Avenue in D.C. I've been there a lot. And I've seen it a lot. But when you call up and say, where are you located? On Merlin. I thought, Merlin, the magician? And so, anyway, the Department of Education needs to go. We can use that building for something else. But it needs to go. All of the money that goes into it, our money, is coming back to bully us. It's got to stop. That's where we can fix this whole system. Thank you.
Back when this country was founded, the #1 selling book was the Bible. You want to know what the second best-selling book was? It's called the New England Primer. Kids would learn through this, and they would learn the alphabet through things like through Adam's fall, all of sin, or through Adam's sin, all of fall. They learned not only school, they learned morality in their education. That's what we need to return to as far as if we're really going to fix things. Because in all honesty, money is not the answer, whether it comes from Washington or whether it comes from your local tax dollars. What we need to do is inspire kids to think, and not just how to regurgitate answers and how to answer questions on quizzes. They have to be able to think for themselves, to be independent, to be responsible. That's the only way we're going to get back to normalcy in this country and back to our true values. So, like all the other candidates, yes, I do believe that we should get rid of the Department of Education. What we have to be careful of, though, is that is not an answer in itself. We morally have to get back to the founding of this country, where morality is more important. Thank you.
Creeping federalism. Creeping federalism. Have you heard that term before? because we have been living in a nation of creeping federalism for the last 50 years. If you go back to the 60s, you start to see creeping federalism. Department of Education, creeping federalism. Who was the first president that advocated abolishing the Department of Education? Ronald Reagan. He was not able to do it. George H.W. Bush, not able to do it. George W. Bush, not able to do it. Creeping federalism. It's a disease that has infected our nation for more than 50 years. And it's not easily cured. But you know how it is cured? It's cured at the local level. It's cured when we get engaged locally. Now we talk about what can Fayette County do, what can we do for Fayette County? I can tell you that in Fayette County, you have a school board. Commissioner Kelly's not going to determine the school budget. It's going to be your school board. And your school board is elected by you. That's where you start. Where do we do it at the state level? The state of Tennessee has an education program. There's great debate about whether or not the state is properly funding education at the local level. I don't think that they are. I think there's a lot of problems with our Better Education Program, our EEP program at the state level, where the counties are not getting the tax dollars returned to them that they need to fight the problem of education in our community. Creeping federalism means that we're constantly chipping away at what our rights are and what our responsibilities are. It starts with you getting engaged. It starts with you electing congressmen who can go up there and fight this insidious illness of creeping federalism, can return the power to you, deregulate these issues, get it at your level here in Somerville and Fayette County, and let's take back what is rightfully yours. Thank you.
Well, let me give you an example of what the Department of Education has given to us in this area. Third graders in Memphis, Tennessee, do you know what percentage level of reading they're at? I mean, 67% of the third graders in Memphis, Tennessee cannot read at the level they're supposed to read at. Let me say it that way. Now, that's what your Department of Education has given to you. And their budget is close to $70 million, and then their support team, whatever you want to call it, is like, so they got like $120 million they're spending, and the kids in Memphis, 2/3 of them are reading below their level. And at that point, it'll be hard for them to catch up. It'll be hard for them to make the good grades, to even graduate and go to college. That's what our government's doing to people. I mean, that's just one thing. We need to cut the Department of Education. I was on the school board in Covington, Tennessee, and I realized I don't know anything about this. This is a tough one. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, it's a complicated issue. We were able to consolidate the school, and that saved money. And it stopped the people were getting hostile. People were buying houses in different areas just so they could go to different schools. So there's a lot of problems in our school system, but it starts with the federal government getting at. They only give the school system 7%. We send all the tax money back. They give us back 7%. The schools are funded by our taxes on our houses. They give us back 7% and they control us. Thank you.
What role does the federal government have in education? None. Now, I've been married going on 26 years. My wife is currently a public elementary school teacher at Donaldson Elementary in Arlington. As I mentioned before, I used to teach high school in Millington. So I support education. I have 5 daughters. So I love children, I support education. But the federal government has no role in education. It's unconstitutional. We've all said we want to get them out. I'll tell you why. It's because of the 10th Amendment. All powers not explicitly given to the federal government or explicitly denied the state government belongs to the state. Education belongs to the states, not the federal government. What can we do to help Fayette County? leave more of Fayette County's resources in Fayette County for them to control their own education. The County Commission has shown it can take leadership in important issues facing education. The local school board, most of the time, here over the history, has shown that it can take the leadership to do what's necessary for education in Fayette County. And you, the people, it's your responsibility to hold those two bodies accountable. And Tom Leatherwood, I need your vote to put my experience to work for you in D.C. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dave Bault, and we're facing a couple things in this country. Number one, the queerification of our schools, and number two, the Islamification of our schools. These two things happen for a reason. The powers that be want our men to become wimps and wusses, to be taken over by what? The Islamic horde that seems to be invading America. Invading America from within. So where do we start the fight at? Yes, this isn't a new problem. This is a problem that started long ago. We can say, hey, let's get rid of the NEA. And that's going to be something that I strive to do. But that's an uphill battle, and that's an uphill fight. Where we have to start is at home, here in Fayette County. I had the opportunity with my wife to homeschool our children for the first 7 years before life circumstances forced us to place them in the public school system, where I've watched the danger when they come home and they talk about the president in such glowing terms. And they talk about all these things. I'm like, my God, it's my responsibility to teach my children. It's my responsibility to stand up and to counter. At my first possible chance, I'll pull them out and put them in a private school. But that's not an opportunity many middle-class and lower-class families have to do. And it's up to us to stand up for what's right. Even though the federal government does one thing, we can stand up at this local level and fight. And I will go to Washington and represent your fight. But fighting by yourself isn't something you can do. Because sometimes when an official or somebody goes to Washington, they feel the pressure from Washington, and they don't feel the support at home. All they feel from home is pressure. All they feel from home is the negative, because they feel we should do more. We are privileged to be a part of the most conservative district in America, and we can make a difference and be the counter to Nancy Pelosi and the nuts in San Francisco. Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much. That was great. All right, now for our second question, and Howell, will you read that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So far, so good. We have identified that a lot of the problems are that Washington is doing wrong things. And I'm just going to preface the question I got out here. People in Washington are doing wrong things. So the question is, the U.S. Constitution provides for articles of impeachment to be drafted by congressmen. Would you be proactive and draft such articles of impeachment if you identify offenses that deserve an officer of the federal government to be removed from office? And I would ask you to identify an event and an individual that you would target for impeachment if you do think that's the right thing to do.
We're going to start in the middle of the pack with Honeycutt.
Mr. Honeycutt.
Well, I'm all for it. And I'm not sure that you can readily identify the ones that are doing the wrong things. If you observed it, of course you would want to do something about it. But, you know, they're pretty good at hiding stuff. These career politicians are trained and throughout their career to do more and more stuff and represent special interest groups and all that kind of stuff, and the guys with the money behind them, all that kind of thing. I think some of the things that should be illegal, and if I caught anybody doing something illegal, I would focus on them. But taking money from lobbyists, and I understand they run the legislature these days. They're walking up and down the halls just constantly. The guards know them. They don't even have to check their identity to see who they are because they know exactly who they are. And, you know, anything I caught, I'd be glad to focus on them and have them removed, whichever way I could. And it would depend on the legislation regarding that, and it'd be hard to get it. And I do propose it. If you read my flyer, on the back of it, you'll see I'm all for that. And, you know, bring them before whatever legal group is necessary to remove them. They're not going to remove themselves, so we have to keep focusing on that to get that done.
To Dr. Flinn.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Mr. Brown, for knowing the Constitution impeccably. Impeachment. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's part of the brokenness of this entire political system. Congressmen, senators, elected officials hold themselves above the law, the same law that we have to abide by. You and I have to abide by laws. We abide by speeding laws. We abide by laws of commerce. We abide by laws that they present to us. Yet they think just because they made the law, they don't have to obey it. We need to find those out. When we find them, don't put them under the carpet. You don't just sweep it under the carpet. Do something about it. That's what's wrong with the system. It's broken. The good old boy network is going, and it's alive and well in Washington, D.C. And we need to break it up. We need to have it responsible to us, not to themselves, because like we heard, they're not going to impeach themselves. We need to get there and do something about this. You know, we've got all kind of things that are going wrong. We've got the VA system. It's wrong. The things that are happening, and all they do is change the head of the VA. They don't prosecute them. They change them. They change it to another district. And I asked some of my friends in the VA, I said, what's happened? What's changed now that you've made all of these sweeping changes? And they said, not one thing. Veterans still have to wait, and service is less than optimal. I'm George Flinn, running for Congress because we can fix this thing. Thank you.
Hal, would you read the question again? I know I've forgotten what it is. One more time.
The question was, will you initiate impeachment proceedings? Any one congressman can do that, by the way. All right? If you identify an individual in the legislative, well, the executive or the judicial branch that is doing their job wrong, illegally, whatever. That help?
Yes. I am all for impeachment at any level, including the president, current sitting president. He has broken the law several times. There's probably a few dozen, if not more, things that you could impeach him for. When he passed Obamacare, he went in there through the back door and was making changes constantly, illegally, so he gets the bill passed and then he changes it so it's to his advantage to control and manipulate us even more. His venture into going to war without Congress's approval is an impeachable offense. And he needs to be held accountable as well as anybody else. As far as impeachment for Supreme Court judges, that too is game, because the Constitution does not guarantee Supreme Court or federal judges to lifetime appointments. They are there in the Constitution as long as they have good behavior. Back when that meant something, federal judges, there was one federal judge that was dismissed for intoxication. Not on the job, just public intoxication. And that, at that time, that was considered good enough to be impeached. So there are certain judges on the Supreme Court right now that I would consider writing up impeachment for those judges because of their standing in their record and what they've done, which is unconstitutional. And likewise, if there is a senator or congressman, or excuse me, representative that is doing something also wrong, they would be eligible for impeachment as well. Thank you.
No, impeachment is an extremely serious offense. And by our rules in Congress of the United States, it's preceded by congressional hearings, the House of Representatives, votes taken in the House of Representatives, trial is conducted by the Senate, and I think it's presided over by a Supreme Court justice, or maybe the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So it's a very deliberative process that comes about as a result of a very serious offense. Now, there's a lot of stupid things that are going on in government that don't rise to the level of impeachment. I think we've got to be very careful that we don't take the tool of impeachment. I'm going to call it a very sacred tool, but the very sacred tool of impeachment and use it frivolously. Yes, there are people in the United States government, justices of the Supreme Court, federal judges, congressmen and women, senators, a number of federal officials, elected federal officials, that should be scrutinized on an ongoing basis. But when we talk about impeachment, we talk about what that engages and what that involves, we have to be very, very careful. Yes, when we see someone who meets the standards that are established by our Judiciary Committee, by our Congress, by our Senate, and adjudicated by our Supreme Court justices, very definitely there should be impeachment. Impeachment has not been used that often in the United States, but where it has been used, it's been very effective. Let's make sure that we don't trivialize the process, that we don't politicize the process, that we use it as a legitimate way to control misbehavior within our government. That's why we are in the United States of America. We have been able to discern, we've been able to make wise decisions, we've been able to determine what's stupid and what's illegal. Let's use impeachment for what is illegal and unconstitutional, not for what's just stupid.
Well, to answer your question, yes, if a president or a Supreme Court justice did what the Constitution says and did a bad crime, okay? And I think in our history there's been 2 people impeached. Nixon resigned before it happened, and the lady running for president, Mrs. Clinton's husband, was impeached in the House, and the Senate didn't vote to remove him from office. So that's kind of ironic right there. It's a good question. The federal government is conducting itself outside of the Constitution. Everybody up here has been saying that. One thing is, only the Congress can make laws. I mean, everybody knows how it works. Congress starts it, Senate gets involved, the president signs it, so forth. Now, we have all these regulations, which essentially are laws. And the president does the regulations through these different agencies. And so what happens is there's thousands of laws. Each year there's 8,000 pages of laws. There's 20,000 new regulations getting ready to happen. So how do we stop a tyrannical almost government? Article 5 of the Constitution says that 2/3 of the states, and I think Tennessee is working on this. I don't know if they've got on board yet, but 2/3 of the states can hold a convention and make amendments to the Constitution. In other words, 2/3 of our states, and a lot of our states are getting on board already, can push back this out of control federal government.
and I appreciate you giving them the example of why it should be. And let me say why I think the forum's been pretty good so far. I don't know that it's right for one candidate to get background music and others not to. But I'll go ahead and let that go.
I did it last week.
You did that last week. Well, yes, I would. Thank you. I'll flush that out. You know, our Constitution allows for separation of powers and checks and balances. Our Constitution also allows for Congress to hold the executive branch accountable. One of those tools is impeachment. Now, we do generally think of it in extreme terms because we just think about impeaching the President of the United States. But it was never meant to just be restricted to that. It was meant as a tool for Congress, the legislative branch, to hold the executive branch accountable. Is it used often? No. Should it be used often? No. But we're not in a normal state in this country anymore. Our current president, frankly, I think he hates this country and is doing all he can to dismantle it. Would I file articles? Yes. You know, we could start with the head of the VA for the incompetence and the lack of accountability for the way our veterans are being treated. It's wrong. The Department of Education for the perversion being pushed down onto our students. The president, yes, he should be impeached. Those articles should be brought forward. Are we going to stand up? Frankly, we can all say back here that we will stand up, but then we're going to say we're not going to use the tool to stand up and use. I'll use that tool, as well as all the other tools in my quiver. Thank you.
The Gestapo-like tactics of the IRS can't be tolerated. When you are persecuted because of your conservative beliefs and because of your beliefs, that cannot be tolerated, period. Do they need to be impeached? If that's the only way, yes. Do they need to be fired? Without a doubt. These are situations that we must go into very, very slowly. Anytime you make a decision like that that impacts people's lives, we've got to be very careful. Also, you have to look at the law of unintended consequences. If it's used by us, will the Democrats, for example, use it against us for something like being a global warming denier, which seems to be the hot new crime of the 21st century? We need to stand up for conservative values and be able, the Congress must be able to fire federal officials. They shouldn't be in there for life. They should have contracts that must be renewed. So yes, the answer is, I do support impeachment if there's no other option. Thank you.
Well, you know, when I got the question, I immediately started to write down names. Because we have unfortunately we have gone so far afield in terms of our interpretation of the Constitution that these types of remedies do seem very extreme, and we have so loosely interpreted our Constitution that we violate it all the time. Now, you know, a couple of names that came to mind, this very target-rich environment. Obviously, Lois Lerner of the IRS, the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services for propagating the HHS mandate regarding contraception and abortifacients, which has now been the source of ongoing litigation, often won, thank heavens. The head of the General Services Administration, who years ago took many federal employees on a huge junket to Vegas, spending enormous amounts of money. This is actually the agency of government that is responsible for efficiency and cost control. The head of the Veterans Administration. We could go on. We could look at the justices of the Obergefell decision, constitutionalizing gay marriage. The Supreme Court himself, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court himself said, if you want to celebrate gay marriage in this decision, go ahead and celebrate it, but don't celebrate the Constitution, because the Constitution had nothing to do with it. So I would just say, You know, we've entered a world in which 5 of 9 people can change the Constitution. We'll talk about what's in the Constitution. It's actually a rather difficult process to amend it. We've made it very easy. You just need 5 of 9. And, you know, there are some simple fixes. We need to just have simple, easy hiring and firing of federal employees. Thank you.
This is an excellent question. And before I answer, I want to qualify it. If you ever read in the newspaper that David Wharton went home and killed his family and then committed suicide, that's a lie. Okay? Just so you know. First on the list is Barack Obama. Barack Obama stood outside the courthouse, put his hand on the Bible, and pledged to uphold the Constitution of the United States and to administer its laws. Now, he tells the Immigration Department, don't enforce the law. If you catch them, let it go. This is treason. This is treason to our country. We're not having immigration in our country. We're having an invasion of our country. And we have to take our country back. Hillary Clinton ran the Secretary of State, or was the Secretary of State, and runs the State Department. She is the tone at the top. And accounting and auditing, when you go into a company and you start talking to the management and you ask them questions, you question about this and about that, and what's this for, what's that for. If you get a lot, I don't know, you have to ask somebody else, let me get back to you on that. I'm not sure about that one. Let me get with Fred over here and purchasing. You got a problem. You got a big problem. And when you watch C-SPAN and you watch some of these, I'm a C-SPAN junkie. I like to make C-SPAN. You must watch TV. And if you couldn't really watch it will be. But anyway, there is innumerable opportunities for removing people from office. Congress has to get that ability and take that ability back for us to fire these inept, incompetent people that are running our government.
Yes, and you know, when I was United States Attorney, that was my duty. If I thought that somebody broke the law and I had the grand jury investigate them, I signed an indictment. I indicted them so that they would go to trial. You know, I think that we all should take our duties seriously. And how you enumerated one of the duties that we have as a congressman. I think that's exactly right about Hillary Clinton. Hypothetically, if I were in Congress when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and we knew what we know now, that she broke the law, that she violated the rules of the Department of State, I would have led the drafting of those impeachment articles. And again, I think that's what a congressman, that's what a congressman from the 8th District is supposed to do, is to stand up, is to fight, and to lead. And that's been my record, and that will continue to be my record once I'm in Congress. Thank you very much.
I think it's probably reasonable to assume that I'm probably the only one on the stage who actually has experience in impeachment, and so I'll fill you in. When I was in college, I was president of the student body at Union, and when I was elected president of my fraternity, the other fraternity didn't like that much, so they brought me up on articles of impeachment and tried to impeach me as student body president. And I'm proud to say they failed because they didn't have anything to go off of. Let me say this. I think one of the things, and yes, to answer your question directly, I would do that. And we actually have a rich history in the 8th Congressional District. Ed Bryant, some of you will know, was actually the lawyer for the Congress that presented to the Senate the case against Bill Clinton. And Ed Bryant's a good man. He lives in Jackson. He's still very, very active in politics and is a judge now. We had a man of courage there that was willing to take that charge and stand up. John Tanner, who was congressman at the time, if you read the Starr report, Frank Starr, you'll find that John Tanner was actually on the phone with Bill Clinton during an experience with Monica Lewinsky. I'm not making that up. So while John Tanner was calling about important 8th congressional business, Bill Clinton was doing that. Now, if you think back when Nixon, and if you looked at history, when Nixon was impeached, when they went after him, who went after him? Republicans. You said it. Fred Thompson. Fred Thompson was the guy that went after him. Fred Thompson had courage. So you got John Tanner, former congressman, involved in that one. You got Ed Bryant, who went after Bill Clinton. You got Fred Thompson. Republicans hold Republicans accountable, and we need to. And Democrats need to be held accountable too. And Hillary Clinton destroying things our direction on Benghazi, she should be held accountable, and I've already drafted the impeachment articles right here.
Would I impeach officials for high crimes and misdemeanors? Absolutely. I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and I'm running for Congress because this district deserves someone with a proven conservative record. And once again, I can tell you that on this issue, I have a proven conservative record. It was my first year in the legislature in which we had the Tennessee Waltz sting that marred this state for many years. Because we had people on Channel 3 over and over again being played with the video of accepting cash in return for moving legislation, accepting bribes in return for votes. This was a terrible, terrible time in our state's history. I was there to witness it. And the easy part was to condemn someone like John Ford, the Democrat state senator, whom we all knew had been doing this probably for a while, and to say that, hey, we need to remove this person from the legislature. But the hard part was what was just referenced. What about the Republican? People forget that in the House, when many of us were serving at the time, there was a Republican who was charged with the same thing. If you want a congressman who's going to sit there silently, then don't vote for me. Vote for somebody else up here. Because I'm not going to provide that for you. But I was the leading voice who said that if we have people who are committing crimes, they need to be gone from this body. Because what was told me in response was, hey, the standard is that you've got to wait and you get your day in court and you got to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But I said, no, that's not the standard for serving in public service. The standard for public service is much higher. That's the standard for going to jail. And I'm going to be somebody who stands up for the standard of public service for you.
Question? Gentlemen, this is kind of a lengthy question, but this is all about Fayette County. As Fayette County continues to grow, our rural county will need support for infrastructure development. How can you specifically help us from your position in Washington? And what do you believe is the most important issue for Fayette County?
And I'm going to let somebody step up to the mic. Volunteer on that one. Okay.
Well, I'm not from Fayette County. I've worked in Fayette County. But I think the most important issue facing America is first, to make Donald Trump our president. Second, we have to reform our tax code. Our tax code confiscates earnings from individuals based on what they report to the government. Now, I'm an accountant. I do taxes all the time. This is a real problem because the tax system makes us all liars. Right? The current tax system, it makes you a liar because you work hard for your money and you deserve to keep your money. Now, I propose the fair tax system. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the fair tax. I suggest that there's a small book you can read called the Fair Tax Book by Neil Wharton, the congressman who drafted the law. It is H.R. 25. You can go on House website and read H.R. 25. But what we have to do is the money that people make in their communities has to stay in their communities, and we have to get the money that you make to stay here. The government is supposed to provide for our defense, they have minimal duties, and we have far too large a government. So we have to cut lots of administration, lots of departments, and we have to return education, taxing. Tennessee has a triple AAA rating. How about that? That is one of the finest ratings in the United States of America. What kind of tax system do we have? We have a sales tax system, right? You don't have to bring me your papers and come and file taxes at the end of the year for the state of Tennessee. Now, the home tax is still there, which is for investments, dividends, banks. We need to get rid of that, and I think they're working on that. It's gone, almost gone. It hasn't. Didn't you sign it?
He signed it.
Okay, it is done. So we don't even have that. Anyway, keep the money in the states, in the communities. Let you spend your money. That is the answer to all those questions.
You know, decaying infrastructure is something that a lot of rural rural cities are facing. And that is something that we are facing in Jackson, Tennessee. I know it's being faced in Union City, in Henry County, and Dyer County. That decaying infrastructure that's underneath the streets is a problem. And we need to address those issues. I think one of the things that we need to do, though, on all of the issues that face us in West Tennessee is work together. Again, going back to the education issue, Jackson faced a desegregation lawsuit, and we worked our way through that. One of the most important issues, I believe, facing you right now, to answer the question directly, is the education component. You've experienced great growth in people moving here, and that's great. Kudos. They want to live in a smaller community, maybe work in Shelby County, but live in a smaller community. But one of the things that's happening, or at least I've heard is happening here in talking with people, is people are moving here. The education system is not what it needs to be, and they're moving away. That does not help Fayette County. That just hurts somebody spending money moving back and forth. We need to address the education issues together here in this county, and as a personal guarantee, I'm very well versed in this issue because most of the people who are on the school board that have fixed the problems in Jackson are friends of mine and people who I've helped campaign for, and we can work with you on that education component to try to help you get to that place so that when families move here, they stay here. And I want to see that happen for you. On the decaying infrastructure, again, and I just got through with helping Jerry Gist, our mayor, who's supporting me, to get elected, and he is working on the decaying infrastructure issue. I would hope that we can do the same thing to help you guys, and I pledge to do that as your congressman.
I'm for bringing back something that our beloved Ronald Reagan did away with in a moment of stupidity or something, maybe lapse of memory. But, you know, back before he got in office, the federal government gave each state every year $1 billion to do infrastructure and whatever else they needed to. So I'm for bringing that back. And the federal government has the money. They can go 20 billion into, or 20 trillion into debt. You know, they can do another 48 with no problem. But the states have no capacity to raise money anymore. We're maxed out. And we need that money from somewhere. And the federal government's got it, or will have it. And they should give it back to us. Thank you.
I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and when I was growing up, my grandfather actually had a store here in Fayette County. It was right on the corner of Macon Road and 196. I know Dave remembers it. He used to shop there. And many of you have heard of Keogh Road in the southern part of Fayette County. That was named after actually his father and his grandfather's family. His name was Joe Keogh. He had a store right there, and it was there for many years, and it's not there anymore. Why is it not there anymore? Well, two reasons. Federal government overregulation and too many lawsuits. That's why it's not there anymore. Because they said, oh, you're not following this particular code, and if you want to take this action, and his store actually burned, and if you want to rebuild it, you're going to have to rebuild it to do this, and you're going to have to spend all this money to follow every single federal government regulation, and if not, every one of these lawyers is going to start suing you. And we need less of that, and we will have more jobs here in Fayette County.
I believe the question had to do with infrastructure and deteriorating infrastructure and how we go about addressing that. Dealing with the issues of infrastructure is probably one of the more complicated issues that public officials deal with. Why? Because it's not really considered to be very sexy expenditure of money. Infrastructure is everything from stormwater drainage systems to the sewer system to roads, bridges, and school buildings. And quite often it's very difficult to get people to understand precisely the importance of maintaining good infrastructure within government. I can tell you there's one thing that we know for sure. The taxes that we're paying to Washington, Nashville, to your county seat, we're not getting the return on those taxes that we need to invest in our infrastructure. We struggle with this every year. We're not getting back all the money that we send to Washington. We're not getting back all the money we send to Nashville. You're not getting all the money that you send into Somerville. What we have to do at the local level is really start engaging our county commissioners, our state representatives, our state senators, our United States congressmen, our United States senators on the issue of making sure that our money that we're sending out of our home county comes back to our county and our home and our district to deal with our roads, our bridges, our sewer system, our water, our air, that we can fix those problems. We don't need more taxes. We don't need it. We've got plenty of money, we got more money we need. We need to cut taxes. What we need is a reprioritization of the taxes that we're paying so that it comes back and we're able to invest it where it's needed most locally.
Well, we're seeing something we'll see more of in the next few years. That's a flight from the city of Memphis. People are leaving Memphis at record rates, and they're coming to the rural areas of West Tennessee. This district will be quickly moving from Memphis east. Case in point, if something happens such as a natural disaster, where would the people go? Where would the problems go? They're coming this way. They're coming this way quickly. If you have a chance in any way, as a congressman, I would support rural infrastructure development with the understanding that something is coming at some point on the New Madrid Fault. Disaster is imminent, probably in the next 50 years. And we have to understand that when there's a disaster that occurs, the people that survive are coming east. They're coming east in droves. They're going to need food, water, education, and something to be provided for. And as a congressman, we have to be able to have eagle-like vision and see in the future and know that there are things and there are threats coming that we do not yet understand, but will be here. Thank you.
Can I ask you to repeat the question one more time?
Okay, this is all about as Fayette County begins to grow, our rural county will need support for infrastructure development. How can you specifically help us from your position in Washington, and what do you think is the #1 priority issue for Fayette County?
All right. Well, let me answer the last part first. I'm going to listen to Fayette County on what the #1 priority is. And I think that's important because too many times we have legislative leaders who they get in office and they all of a sudden think that they're smarter than everybody else, and I don't think that matters what party you're in. Brad, you mentioned Congressman Ed Bryant a moment ago, and I got to work with Ed Bryant when I was chairman of the Shelby County Republican Party, and he was a new congressman. And what impressed me with Ed for all of his years of service was he was a very good listener, meeting with local officials all across his district. I think the most important thing as a congressman that I can do is listen to the mayor, listen to the school board about what the needs are and what you think the solution is, so that we can help craft something that I can take to Washington to get passed and to get implemented. Because I'm not going to know all the answers. I don't think you would expect me to know all the answers. The leaders here know all the answers. I said at the very beginning that the power's not in Washington. It's in this room. It's in this county, and I'm very sincere about that. I'm going to listen to leaders, and I'm going to work with leaders so that I can advocate in Washington to help you all craft the right solutions, whether we're talking about Fayette County, Dyer County, or any other county in this district.
Thank you very much.
Well, you know, a few years ago, I had a friend who became president of a small college in New York City, King's College. And he had me up there for an interview, and he was telling me about how he was from Kentucky, and he had, as a kid, gone up to New York City, and he thought about how someday I'm going to live in New York City. You know, he was really excited about that, and he was telling me this with excitement. And I'm there for the job interview, and all I could think of as I listened to him was, I pretty much spent my whole life trying to get to Tennessee. I like it here. You know, to me, this is a great place. And Tennessee, if we keep Tennessee free, if we keep it free of Washington interference, this place will attract business. This place will attract the tax base that is necessary to fund these kind of projects. Now, should your congressman be the person who's out there getting that for you? My answer would be no. That's part of why I'm a Republican. My vision of a congressman is not somebody who goes to Washington and brings back the goodies. So I would say that when it comes to these particular types of things, unless we're talking about an interstate or something else that connects states to states, then we should look to the government in Tennessee, in this county, and that will actually function much better than any kind of a Washington project ever will. Thank you.
I'm George Flinn, running for Congress, and the answer, the hidden answer that we have not found yet is creating jobs right here. That's what we need, is jobs here, small businesses here. That brings the tax base here. That keeps the money here. That fixes the roads. The whole thing spirals upward so that we have jobs, we have businesses, we have taxes, and we have those taxes staying here to fix our roads and have all the amenities that we need. I'm a job creator. I've got over 45 radio and TV stations. They're all small businesses. I've created over 1,000 jobs. I know what it is to run a business. I know what it is to pay taxes. I know what it is to run a small business. I know what Obamacare has done to all businesses. It's hurt businesses. Job as a congressman, what do? You get the government out of your business and minding their own business, protecting the borders, what they're supposed to be doing, what they're not doing. They're coming in here and taking your money and saying, do it my way. And that's enough. Enough is enough. The system's broken, but we can fix it. And jobs is what we need right now. Thank you.
Any other brave souls?
Sure. My name is Nervous George Howell, and I agree with Dr. Flinn that we need to get jobs back here. And if I were to tell you that I know what the problems are in Fayette County, I'd be lying to you. I really don't. But I would take the same approach that I take in manufacturing. If we've got a problem in the machine shop, I don't go talk to the guys in the front office. I go back to the machine shop guys and I talk to them. And I find out what the real problem is. Because the perception up front isn't what's really happening in back. So I would use the same approach. I think, David, you were mentioning that, and I totally agree. You've got to talk to the people, find out what the problem is. What I would really work for, though, is your freedom and liberty. Right now, we've got, again, $19 trillion in debt. And that's not going to go away. We don't need a balanced budget. We need surpluses to pay it off. Otherwise, our kids, I mean, at 60 years old, we're still going to be paying off that debt when I die, even if we start paying it off in 3 years. So we have to be doing some pretty extreme things. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. It's not a pretty picture, but we've got to really address that, because otherwise our kids are not going to have a future for them at all. There won't be an America as we know it today unless we do some drastic moves. So we do need to create jobs. The principal thing that I would do in year one is I would cut the corporate tax from 35% down to 17.5%. Now that will add to the deficit, on a yearly basis of $172 billion or something like that. Those would have to be offset through things like, besides building the wall against illegal immigrants, we have to get rid of the incentive for them coming over, which is eliminating all entitlements that go to every illegal immigrant. And that'll be a huge savings. The other thing is to take away, we're giving money to the corporations with entitlements, things like the Import-Export Bank. That is go. Thanks.
I'll be really brief. Every time we gas our cars up, I forget how much it is, 28, 30 cents, goes to the federal government. It's supposed to be allocated for highways. They're taking that money, they put it in their general funding, same as Social Security. They're robbing us. Politicians, back to that. And it's something that, as far as infrastructure goes, is something that I haven't really delved into, but it does bother me that Flint, Michigan, where Chevrolet Motor Division first started, has poison in the water. The EPA blamed the local EPA. The local EPA blamed the local government. The local government, they all blamed each other, so the federal government ended up blaming the municipal leaders in Flint, Michigan. So it's a mess. If I go to Congress, any of us that go to Congress, we just have to fight for our share of this. We have to fight for our share of the money. And I think the smaller states that send less tax money for fuel actually get more back. They allocate it differently, like the huge states in California, like California, New York, Florida, Texas. They complain that it's shared, more with the southern states that send less tax. So something to learn about.
Now don't start my time, so we'll get on to the issue here. Tom Leatherwood. I believe that most infrastructure is a state and local responsibility. Might not be the answer you would like to hear, but I believe that's true. Having said that, there are things the federal government can and should do. I-69 has been lagging in Tennessee compared to other states. That can bring a lot of development. Roads are important infrastructure to bring in jobs. So the interstate, as the professor mentioned, is a purview of the federal government. But there's much more that the federal government can do to help with the infrastructure. Number one thing, leave more of your money here and in this state so that you can handle those responsibilities. Number one issue, I think, is the economy and jobs related to the economy. Again, I've got 5 daughters. I want them to have the opportunity to find good jobs and raise their families here at home in West Tennessee. As the jobs are moving out of the country, moving out of West Tennessee, West Tennessee is kind of the stepchild of Tennessee here. They're not going to have that option. They're not going to have that opportunity. How does the federal government do this? By extremely cutting our budget and the regulatory bureaucracies and rules and regs. The only way we're going to balance our budget and create the surpluses, as was mentioned, is by unleashing free enterprise in this country. And we do that by, again, eliminating many of the rules and regulations. How is one person out of 435 going to accomplish this? Many of you have probably heard of the Freedom Caucus. I will join the ranks, work with them, and pass the conservative legislation which we know this country needs, and Republicans promise us, but haven't delivered. I've got the experience to get the job done. I need your vote. Thank you.
Well, it turns out I do know what your problem is here in Fayette County. I guess I'm the only one because the rest of them don't seem to. Well, you're sparsely populated. You're a farming community.
Mr. Honeycutt, I'm sorry, you had your chance.
What?
You had your chance.
Secretary to answer the question.
Yeah, we need a new question.
A new question?
Yeah. For our group.
I didn't think I answered that one.
Yeah, you did. You were the first one.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. All right, our first directed question from our panel.
Okay, this is for Senator Kelsey. What is your position on state notification? Specifically, what is the relationship between the Supremacy Clause, enumerated powers, and the 10th Amendment?
Well, I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and I am running for Congress because we need someone with a proven conservative record, someone who understands the Constitution and someone who is going to implement the Constitution. Unfortunately, we've got too many people up in Washington who not only don't understand the Constitution, they don't even do their own duties under that Constitution. We've got a president right now who chooses to simply ignore the laws of Congress and not enforce those laws. So on this particular issue, it's a very simple concept. You've got a supremacy clause that talks about the federal government powers. Those are limited powers. Most of them are set forth in Article 1, Section 8, in which it talks about what exactly Congress can and should be doing. It also doesn't mention a whole bunch of things that Congress has been doing, and those need to be addressed. And I will address those for you as your congressman. On the issue of nullification, I don't believe that we should be nullifying particular federal laws. In fact, I think that it's impossible to nullify a hypothetical action that may or may not come in the future. And that is what this particular question references with a particular bill. In fact, I would say this. There are tons of examples of terrible government overreach in this country. Why in the world would we have to talk about nullifying some action that hasn't even yet taken place? Thank you.
All right, this is for Mr. Bault, and the question is, before Roe v. Wade, thousands of women died each year from back alley abortions. What will you do to ensure women continue to have access to safe, legal health care?
Hi, my name's Dave Bault, and I'm not a politician. I don't have anybody giving me canned answers or canned speeches. However, Roe v. Wade needs overturned, and it needs overturned now. And the best way to make sure women have access to health care is real simple. We overturn Obamacare, and we get rid of Obamacare right now. Because Obamacare is a travesty that's going to destroy health in America. Right now in Venezuela, there is a socialist disaster going on. People are hungry in the streets, but you don't see it in the mainstream news. And the reason is because socialism has destroyed Venezuela. And if we keep on the path of socialized medicine, socialism will destroy our country as well. Thank you.
This is for Dr. Flinn. Will you vote to get the U.S. out of the United Nations?
I'm George Flinn, and I appreciate the question. The United Nations is taking our money and thumbing their nose at us and saying, fund us, give us money, and we will think about you when we vote against you. The United Nations is not on our side. I think the United States should get out of the United Nations. And I think we should take our own, we should come together as a country and have that national pride and become the world power and the world leader that we need to be, and not share it with everyone else that we're funding, of course, and they say, well, we want some of that power. We're going to make the decisions. You give us the money. And that doesn't go with me. I think we should be out of it. I think we should be the world power. They should be coming to us rather than us going to them for decisions about what happens in the world. We're the greatest nation in the world. Let's act like it. Thank you.
Next question. Okay, this is for Mr. Leatherwood. What is your position on homeschooling, and
And if you were elected, how would you protect the freedom?
Did you say it was for me? Would you repeat the question, please?
Mr. Leatherwood, what's your position on homeschooling? And if elected, how would you specifically protect that freedom?
I do support homeschooling. Again, used to be a teacher, wife's still a teacher, 5 daughters. We've been all over the board on education. We have actually homeschooled our children. You know, when we started having children, my wife stayed home, stopped teaching, stayed with the kids. We homeschooled for a while. When they got older, she went back to work. They went, into the public school system. As of a few weeks ago, my third one just graduated from Arlington High School. Also, when I ran for the state senate, the person I ran against not only sponsored state income tax, but he voted against homeschool legislation that would allow parents to teach their children without a certificate, a teacher's certificate or something along those lines. That failed. To undo that, it failed an education committee by 1 vote. Again, he voted, in favor of these restrictions on homeschooling. When I was elected, this is just a lesser known but very impactful vote that I had. I voted in favor of the homeschoolers. So those of you homeschooling now that don't have the teacher certificate, part of that is because of the turning a no vote for it into a yes vote. So very supportive of homeschooling on the local level. But again, I have to go back to it, and we've gotten so trained to expect everything from our congressmen and the federal government. Federal government has no role in homeschooling, private education, Christian education, or anything else. We need to eliminate the Department of Education as per the 10th Amendment. So what will I do for homeschooling? Why, I'll help you raise money for your homeschooling groups. I will speak to your groups, but believe the federal government really doesn't have a purview in it in that regard. Thank you.
Next question.
All right, most of these questions we wish we could ask everybody, but we don't have time for that, so I'm going to pick Mr. Howell. And a little background here, Rossville had a company for recycling lead, like in batteries and that sort of thing. And it was unable to continue in business under the EPA regulations. In fact, in the United States, the last lead refining company shut down a couple of years ago because they could not operate under the costs that the EPA restrictions put on it. What would you do if you're in Congress so that our businesses aren't trashed that way by the EPA?
Thanks for giving me a nice, easy question like that. Without knowing the specifics as far as the lead, I can give you some other examples. Again, I've been in manufacturing for 35 years. When we want to buy large diameter copper tubing, we can't get it here in the United States. We have to go to Germany. The EPA has killed thousands, if not millions, of jobs here in the United States. We don't want to sit there and just open the floodgates and say, there's no restrictions or anything like that. We still need the restrictions, but at the same time, we've got to, do it intelligently and in a fair and equitable way. As far as the lead, most likely, if it's like some of the other EPA legislation, most likely it's highly exaggerated and overrated. The EPA was the one that had that pollution spill out in Colorado a few months ago, and their consequences were nothing. They didn't have to worry about a thing. They took a perfectly pristine river and totally trashed it. They had zero consequences for that. They passed laws for everyone else that they are not accountable for. One more reason to get rid of the EPA, and the best way to do that is by defunding. I think most likely, again, I don't know the specifics, but most likely this, by defunding the EPA and looking at reasonable legislation to prevent real pollution, I think is certainly doable to bring a lot of industry back in the United States. We often have the United States is often very inequitably balanced with foreign countries where they don't have to follow anything at all to bring their product into the United States. Thanks.
Next question. Mr. Baker, is Islam evil?
Is Islam evil? Well, it is a good question for a person whose expertise is in religion and politics. Well, I'll say this much. I mean, just as a Christian, I do think that Islam deals with a false god. But in terms of the political application, in fact, just let me add to that. Islam, in a sense, to me, is like some other faiths that take the Judeo-Christian accounts and then builds on top of it in a way that is false and artificial. But the problem with Islam is that it is not clear that Islam has the conception of the person that can sustain the kind of democratic rights and duties that we cherish in our society. This is something that has yet to be worked out. Certainly there are parts of the world that are Islamic and are able to coexist peacefully, but it is also a fact that there are segments that are rising that are very dangerous. And all I can tell you is I'm not interested in trying to outlaw an entire religion, but I do think that we're going to have to be extremely shrewd in the way that we deal with refugee issues and in the way we deal with our foreign policy. I mean, the simple fact is that we do not have a foreign policy or a security policy that can really deal with non-state actors. We wish that these terrorists would form a giant country that we could attack, but they're not interested in doing that. They're committing asymmetric warfare against us, and we're going to have to find a new security policy to deal with that threat. Thank you.
Next question.
This is for Mr. Brad Greer. In view of our large national debt, why do we continue giving foreign aid to over 125 countries, and would you work to stop it? And specifically, how would you work to stop it?
What a wonderful softball question. That's a great one. We are funding half the world, and we're ignoring our vets. We're ignoring people in this country who actually need disability and giving it to those who don't. I've experienced that. And I actually think the number of countries that we are supporting exceeds 125, did you say? Yeah, I think it's actually more than that. Here's some things that I would do. Number one, would vote for not raising the debt ceiling so that we can send the money to other countries. I mean, that's an asinine idea. Let's continue to give money to people overseas, and so let's raise the debt ceiling so that we can give money to countries that hate us. Where did common sense go in America? Well, I think it stays back home because nobody wants to go to that cesspool called Washington, D.C. I'm willing to. One of the questions I was asked by a young family here, they said, what will you come away from Congress saying if after your terms are done, if you win? And I said, I hope two things. Number one, that I actually did what I said I would do, and that is represent the people. And number two, that I come away and Washington didn't change me. I am a conservative guy. I'm tired of supporting other countries and not supporting our vets. We just came through Memorial Day. I spent some time with some of our vets. Those are the type of people I am perfectly willing to spend our national resources on and our national tax dollars on to take care of them. We need to. We owe it to them. We go overseas, we bomb countries, and then we go in and we fix them. We spend the money. We spend your money. I'm not willing to do that, folks. I am someone who believes in America, and the folks from out of this country, they need to start taking care of themselves for the most part, except our allies. Thank you.
Next question.
All right, for Mayor Luttrell, the Housing and Urban Development Department has issued or is planning to issue regulations that require zoning across the country to be equal opportunity, so that basically low-income housing will be imposed on communities not just in the cities, but in the suburbs and in the rural areas. What is your view on that, and what's your plan?
You know, I would, that particular question, you could really take the application of your question and apply it to a number of federal regulatory agencies. You mentioned HUD particularly. You could throw EPA into that, you could throw TSA into that. There are any number of federal agencies that are overreaching and overregulating. Now, precisely when it comes to zoning, codes, things of that nature, local. Fayette County, Summerlin, Rossville, local. State of Tennessee, let's let the local, at the state level, let's let the localities deal with these issues. Let's work more and more toward deregulation, returning that authority back to the local level. The HUD reference that you're making, we're seeing that in the last 8 years become pervasive. I talked earlier about creeping federalism. When HUD goes out and starts trying to mandate codes and zoning across the United States for what's going to take place here in Fayette County, is creeping federalism is what we have been fighting. We must continue to fight. We must stay focused on this. We must stay focused because not only is it HUD, but TSA. Let's look at all the issues with TSA that we've seen recently. I like to think that our airport security is better, but is it? Don't really know. There's a lot of room for privatization on some of these issues that the federal government is encroaching upon. We need to start looking for better ways to take care of our local business.
Okay, next question. This is for Mr. Honeycutt. Many voters have rejected the socialist agenda of the Democrats, but often see a big government agenda from elected Republicans. How will you be different, and will you be different?
Would you repeat that for me? We're having trouble hearing you all down here because you're sharing that.
Many
My
voters
opinion's not
have
close enough to it.
Many voters have rejected the socialist agenda of the Democrats, but often see a big government agenda from elected Republicans. How will you be different, and will you be different?
Well, I don't know why the Republicans go to Washington, D.C. and vote down the Democratic party lines, but you have to have some kind of constitution about you and not fall for whatever it is they're selling. And, you know, it's sort of like Nancy Reagan said about drugs, just say no. You know, I'm not interested in that. Don't do it. That's the simple explanation right there. I suppose they're mingling with the Democrats. They're being sold all the time, and eventually they fall victim because these guys become friends, and you have to keep them at arm's length. You know, and realize what they're trying to do, and don't overly associate with those kinds of people. You don't want to be one of them. That's my answer.
Kathy, next question. This question is for Mr. Kustoff. Would you vote to replace Paul Ryan? And if yes, why?
I don't know that I would vote to replace Paul Ryan. First of all, I want to get elected, and I want to see all the candidates for Speaker. Frankly, I think that the next congressman, and I think that's going to be me, the next Congress is going to have a lot of challenges, whether Donald Trump is elected president or whether Hillary Clinton is elected president. Let me take the latter first. If she's elected president, and that's one of the reasons I'm running. I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. And when this race came open and we thought about it, my wife and I don't know, and we don't know what the next 15 years are going to look like. I don't know that this country is going to be better then than it is today. And that's the first time, I think, in this nation's history that we've ever said that. Here's what I'm saying. If Hillary's elected, whether we've got a Republican Senate, Democrat Senate, the House of Representatives, which I think will be Republican, has to be united. Whether that's behind Paul Ryan or whether that's behind somebody else. Because we're the backbone and we control the purse strings, and we all know that. If Donald Trump is elected president, we still need to have a united House of Representatives. I think what I'm telling you is I'm pledging to make sure that the House of Representatives Speaker is conservative, like I'm going to be, shares my ideals, shares my beliefs, shares where I stand for, what I earnestly believe in, and then go ahead and lead as the American people expect us to lead. Thank you very much.
Now, another question.
All right, for Mr. Wharton, does the Constitution authorize the President and the Secretary of the Interior to lock up large blocks of land within states as wilderness reserves?
Well, the reason I sigh is because I watched very closely the standoff out in Oregon and the murder of Leatherwood Finnegan. I believe the man was murdered. If you watch, I don't know what you think, but I was very disheartened by how the federal government handled that situation. These lands, I believe, belong to the state and the people of the state. You know, Alaska pays their people oil royalties because Alaskans own the oil. And I think that Tennessee, we own everything in the border of Tennessee as Tennesseans. And it should be up to Tennesseans as to what happens to that land and how that land is used. If Tennessee wants to sell it, probably the locals could stop that, but if the federal government would stay out of that, and I believe that local land within the borders of the state belong to the state. Now we need military bases, things like that, but those things should belong to the state, but leased to the federal government for their use as a federal base or for federal purposes. So that's my answer to that.
Your next question. Mr. Atkins, what is the Second Amendment for, in your opinion?
Atkins.
Atkins?
Atkins.
Yes. What is the Second Amendment for, in your opinion?
The Second Amendment says that we have the right to bear arms, and in my opinion, it's the most important amendment in the Constitution, because without the Second Amendment, how can you stop the government from taking your First Amendment rights away? Speech, religion, the right to assemble, for the media, and the rest of the Constitution. So the most important amendment in the Constitution, I'm sure for everybody in this room, is the Second Amendment. That's all I got to say about that.
Kathy, next question. For Mr. Baker, would you vote to bring all of our troops home?
I thought a lot about this. I'm actually not the national security expert in my department, but I'll tell you what I think. We have been living in a post-World War II environment in which the United States has been expected to shoulder the burden of national defense and to be the peacemaker worldwide. And I think that in the wake of that cataclysmic conflict, there was a case for that. The wealthiest, most powerful country. However, what we've seen is that the countries, say, of Western Europe, other countries around the world, Japan, have been able to focus on spending in ways that are unencumbered by major defense obligations. In other words, they have been free riders on the defense umbrella provided by the United States. We're worried here talking about things like foreign aid. I can assure you that we've spent far less on foreign aid than we have on defending in two oceans and covering all these other nations defensively. It's time for other major nations to step up in their defense. And what that would mean, I think, is a substantially smaller footprint for us in terms of our people who are stationed overseas and who are in harm's way. So in my view, would I bring everybody back? I can't comment on that. But what I foresee is a future in which our participation globally in these conflicts is far less. Thank you.
Next question.
This is for Mr. Kustoff, and the question was written: as Vice Chairman of Tennessee's Higher Commission, why did you not speak up publicly against university presidents in Tennessee when they all publicly opposed guns on campus legislation this year?
Well, I don't think that came up in any of our meetings, and I missed the last meeting. The fact of the matter is that the legislature has spoken, the people have spoken, and that is now the law. But it wasn't an issue before the Higher Education Commission when I was at any of my meetings. Thank you.
Next question.
Mr. Bault, would you support legalizing DDT?
Funny question. I work for a large exterminating company. People say that there's no risk for you running as a conservative and as a low-level conservative. They might say that, hey, there's no risk for running. They might say that there's no cost for what you may do. But there are certain questions that, because of my position, because of my licensing, could very well cost me my job. And that's one of those questions. DDT is kind of an interesting thing. DDT eliminates, and I actually just got here from a bed bug job. I threw off my scrubbies and came here as quick as I could, and I was inspecting bed bugs. And there's a bed bug epidemic in America today. And the reason there's a bed bug epidemic is because of DDT. DDT had prevented and completely eradicated bed bugs in the United States. But there was one study done that showed that bald eagle eggs were made really weak by DDT. And so because of that study, the EPA, the evil organization, which I'm not supposed to call the evil organization, which I'm not supposed to say, you need to abolish the EPA, made a law to eliminate it. The problem was they were dropping this stuff from planes. Dropping chemical from planes is crazy. It's an application problem. Would I support legalizing DDT? The answer is possibly, if we studied it and found that it was safe. But the reality is the EPA needs to go away, and that when you stand on this stage, you have to stand with the full realization that you're standing with your life in your hands. And it's not an easy thing just to get up there and say that I'm not a politician, because it's your life. Thank you.
Next question.
For Dr. Flinn, did you support Governor Haslam's Obamacare Medicaid expansion?
I'm George Flinn, running for Congress. Not only did I not support the expansion of Obamacare, I oppose it vigorously, because Obamacare is just, you've heard me say this before, politics is what? Broken. Obamacare is one of the aspects of it. It's broken. It takes people and they slow down the process, basically. They say, if we slow down the treatment here or the diagnosis here, either you'll get well, then you don't have to pay for it, or you'll die, then we don't have to pay for it. So it's a cost-cutting mechanism. You realize everyone in here under Obamacare, you, all the men, are covered for having babies. You're going to use that coverage?
Every chance.
Not every chance you get, yeah. You're paying for it, though. You're paying for pediatric dental care, so if you've got any baby teeth, you're covered for it. One size fits all. They're saying, we don't have enough way of making this law. I mean, the law is, 2,500 pages. We don't have enough to be able to actually understand how to differentiate men from women, and we're going in the bathrooms also on that. So I oppose it. I participate in it because I feel sorry for the patients. The doctors are paid 22 cents on the dollar, and they treat you like a criminal for taking the money. So I absolutely oppose it. There is a fix for Obamacare, and I know how to fix it. I want to go to Washington and start that ball rolling. Thank you.
Next question, Howell.
All right, this is for Mr. Leatherwood. And the question is, would you support 8-year term limits for all Congress members?
Yes, I would. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I've got the tested record on this. You know, you can look at my record. When I ran the first time in '92 for state senate, I promised I would only run 2 terms, 8 years. I would add to this coming back as a lobbyist or a consultant. And I saw that in Nashville a little bit, and you see it a lot in DC, where people are voting to take care of their donors because they want to be career politicians, or they're voting to take care of those people they hope will be their future employers as lobbyists or consultants. Now, many issues we've talked about here today, it's really hard to tell how we'll do it because we are one of 435 votes. This is one that is within each candidate's power. I promise you, I will serve no more than 8 years. I will not go back as a consultant or a lobbyist. I think you should expect that and find out what each of us thinks about that, because we are the same in so many ways. This is one way I think we're different, where we will promise you, as I have. Thank you very much.
Sue, next question. Senator Kelsey, do you support an Article 5 constitutional convention?
I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and that's a good question about an Article 5 convention because it came up earlier. And the issue is the issue that Dr. Flinn has talked about. Politics in Washington is broken. And the politicians in Washington are not doing anything to fix it. So if you have all of the important safeguards in place, then I think states have got to start to take that power back away from Washington. And this is one particular power that the Constitution gives states, to meet together and to propose amendments. Now, if you don't have the safeguards in place, this could be a disaster. And that's why I'm very proud that on the state level in Tennessee, we have passed the legislation that is necessary for every state to pass to make sure that that disaster does not take place. What we've said is that if you have a particular member that goes to that constitutional convention and does not stick to the specific issue that that person was sent there to address, then that person should be immediately recalled. But I'll tell you this, I've sponsored a constitutional convention language in regards to the biggest threat to our country right now, which is our national debt. We have got to balance our budget. In Tennessee, I'm proud to say that thanks to our state constitutional provisions, we balance our budget every year. And this year we balanced our budget in 4 months. Congress is up there all year long and they still can't balance their budget. So we've got to have that type of fiscal discipline in place. And what it's going to take is it's going to take a legislator with a proven conservative record, who's proven that he or she can get those conservative results that we all talk about up here. But we've got to be able to get them. And so I will support anything that will put forward people in the U.S. Congress who will actually follow their mandate and balance that U.S. budget.
Next question.
All right, this is from Mayor Luttrell again. This citizen asked, containment water at Camp Lejeune in the years 1963 to 67 was the subject. Symptoms are now showing up in the Marines that were stationed there, but not receiving any assistance or benefits. What can you do to help?
First of all, what you've just described is a travesty. Our Marines at Parris Island, starting back in the 60s, subjected to contaminated water and training exercises, and now the Veterans Administration is questioning whether they deserve veterans benefits. Now, let's get back to our discussion on impeachment. That's an impeachable offense, not serving our veterans. I'm a veteran. I'm very pleased to say my daughter's a veteran. My son is a veteran. I understand the issues that veterans are facing across America. You do too. You read it in the paper, you watch it on the news, you see some of the horrible things that are taking place with our people who have served honorably in defense of this country. And for us to even for a moment, for a millisecond, to hesitate on this issue of providing benefits to those contaminated by this stream at Parris Island is reprehensible. Every congressman, whether they have served in arms or not, takes an oath to defend the Constitution. That oath extends beyond just commitment to a document. That oath extends to the people that Constitution covers. If we're not covering our people, we're not covering our Constitution, and we're not covering the United States of America. Let's hold our federal agencies accountable. In particular, in this particular situation, let's make and demand that our Veterans Administration be what they should be to all people who've stood up in defense of our nation.
Ever after, so to speak. But if you don't have a lot of gold, it'd be kind of stupid to go on the gold standard. Okay.
Okay, we've actually kind of gone over time. So what I want to do is give everybody about 1 minute to make a closing statement, and then I have some very exciting announcements. So let's start at the end there with Mr. Baker.
Okay, just to be very straightforward about it, Plato, who I teach to young people, says that the just man will not seek office. And the only reason that he will is if he's worried about being ruled by the unjust man. I believe that we have a class in Washington now who are unjust. I believe that they are taking prerogatives for the government that belong to God, that belong to the people. I think that religious liberty is in terrible peril. And I'll just say to you, Nancy Pelosi's district in San Francisco sends her to be a fighter for their values, for their beliefs, for their secular progressivism. And I'm saying, you've heard me, send me to be a fighter for what people in West Tennessee believe, because I'm equipped, and you can tell I'm equipped. Thank you. I'm Hunter Baker.
Thank you. I'm David Wharton. I'm running for Congress for the United States Senate, and we have a very short time here to convince you to pull the lever for us. I will go to Washington. I will not betray you. And what he said, how true is that? I am afraid of the unjust ruling over us. I do not want to go to Washington to rule over anyone. I want to go to Washington to serve. I want to investigate, I want to cut, I want to chop, I want to bring our freedom back to the state of Tennessee. Keep our money in the state of Tennessee. I want to help make C-SPAN the most watched television network on cable TV. And if you'll send me to Washington, I will represent you faithfully. Thank you.
As your United States Attorney for the Western District of Tennessee, the one commitment that I shared with you all, and I share with you all today, and I know you all feel the same way, is we have a duty as a Congress, as a government, to keep our community safe, secure, and prosperous. I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to secure the borders. I'm going to fight terrorism. And I'm going to do everything that I can to continue to represent this district in a conservative way and certainly in an honest way. I take pride in questions about my positions, go to my website, kustoffforcongress.com, and look forward to seeing you on August 4th. Thank you very much.
I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey, and I'm the proven, wait a minute, I'm off a seat. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Brian, I'm sorry. The real Brian Kelsey will stand in a minute. Career, and I'm just a simple guy who wants to represent you in Congress. Someone who lives among the people and wants to represent them. So to take their voice in Washington, D.C. is kind of simple. The non-simple part is having good constituent services. I absolutely have the best constituent services you ever seen. That means we take care of our vets. That means when someone has an issue, they can get to their congressman. I'll be that guy. I promise you that. I assure you of that. And if I do not do my job, and I've got a platform of issues, if I do those things, I'll never come on. I'm a real guy, and I'm looking for your support.
Would appreciate your vote for Brad Gray for Congress. I'm State Senator Brian Kelsey. And as I mentioned, my family has a long history here with Fayette County. Keogh Road was named after my great-grandfather's family. And Lord willing, at the end of my life, I'll be buried at the other end of Keogh Road, in that Carterville Cemetery. But before I am, I need your help. Because I hope to take some action before that happens. This country is in trouble. We have $19 trillion in debt. We have ISIS that has inspired attacks right here in Tennessee. And we need somebody who's going to go up there and not just sit on the back bench and just wait out their time and their life in Congress, but somebody who's going to go up there with a proven conservative record. I passed that constitutional amendment to forever ban the income tax in this state, and I'm the only legislator in the history of this state that's amended our Constitution twice. I've proven that I can get things done for you, and that's what I think the 8th Congressional District needs. Someone with a proven conservative record. Brian Kelsey, thank you.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Well, obviously, I'm the guy that you should vote into office. I know more about the economy than all these guys put together. And I've got 30 years of banking experience. I've done high finance for large corporations, large entities. And I know your problems here in Fayette County. And I know what to do about them, because I was an ex-farmer too, a dairy farm and 2 other farms. So, if you want some results, send me to Washington, D.C., and you'll get them. Thank you.
Dr. Flinn.
I'm George Flinn, running for U.S. Congress, and I'm asking for your vote. Why? 2 reasons. We're going in the wrong direction as a country. Number 2, politics is what? Broken. We all know it. I've got a plan to fix Obamacare. I've got a plan to fix the borders. I've got a plan to fix the debt. And let's do it. Let's not just talk about it like the politicians do. They talk about it. They don't do anything about it. In engineering school, I was in a laboratory, and the guy said, I want more labor and less oratory. And that's what I plan to bring. More labor, less oratory. Serving you, funding my own campaign, I don't want special interest group money. I just want your vote because I want to be accountable only to you. Thank you.
Thank you again for having us forward tonight. And my name is George Howell, and I would appreciate your vote. I would also appreciate, since I'm kind of doing I'm self-funded myself, but I am not independently wealthy, and that's not an knock on Dr. Flynn. I think that's great that he's doing this. But I would also appreciate your support if you would be willing to volunteer for it as well. I am a original intent constitutionalist, and I do have a plan as well to fix not just the economy, but also to just not balance the budget, but get a surplus in 3 years, because we cannot just have balanced budgets. We have to have surpluses to pay off our gross negligence for the past 50 years. And I would also go up there to fight the moral bankruptcy that the federal government has, as well as our constitutional bankruptcy that is up in Washington, D.C. Again, my name is George Howell. I'll be right over there by that pretty girl, my wife, Wendy. Thank you. I'm Mark Luttrell, and I ask for your vote on August the 4th. You know, the preamble to our Constitution, the very first phrase in the preamble of the Constitution says, "We the people." I like to say that that's the Constitution speaking to the leadership of this nation, saying, this is our document. Enforce it, live with it, honor it, live and die for it. This congressional district is 45% urban, 55% rural. It cries for a congressman that has the skill set to look at our issues from both an urban and a rural perspective. I'm unique with my background. I come from the heart of the district. I have the district at heart. I ask for your vote on August the 4th. You need a congressman who will represent your interests to come back to Fayette County frequently to seek your guidance. Thank you.
Although I don't understand the gold standard, I did take $100,000 and turn it into $4 million. And tell you what that took. It took hard work, it took integrity, it took a good heart to treat your employees right. When you have a $40,000 a week payroll, you may not sleep that well at night. I never missed one. I sent multi-millions of dollars to the state of Tennessee. But as I said earlier, I understand all these things we've been talking about. I may not articulate it well. This is all brand new to me, but I do have a vision. I can bring jobs to West Tennessee. As an example, Bravo just made a deal last year in the breaking ground in the Carolinas. They're building the first Bravo plant in our country. Got 1 second. If I'd been your congressman, they would have been here. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you,
Tom Leatherwood, asking for your vote to represent you in the U.S. Congress. And why? Because again, I've got the experience to get the job done in D.C. And you can trust me to do that job. Not based on my work, but based on my record and my experience. I've got the record, the experience that shows I'm not going to be intimidated by the establishment. I'm not going to be enticed by the special interests. I've got the experience on state finance committee, balancing the budget, making those tough decisions. I understand economics. I've helped pass, balance a huge budget in Tennessee. I can do this. There's another issue people haven't really addressed. Many in the rural areas are concerned that they won't be represented by someone from a different type area. Let not your hearts be troubled. I'm the only one who has run, won, and represented rural West Tennessee counties. I've done it. I can do it again. Thank you.
Mr. Bault.
Hi, I'm Dave Bault, and I'm not a politician. I'm not going to sing to you in closing. However, Tennessee's 8th District is famous for great men such as Davy Crockett, who made a last stand at the Alamo. Basically, a little over a year ago today, it's about a year and 3 months ago today, I faced the greatest fight in my life, and that's the fight with open heart surgery and heart disease. And when you're laying on your back, you have a chance to figure out some things. And one of the things I figured out is our nation was in trouble. And something rose up in me that said, hey, I'm just a man, but men need to stand. We need to stand up for what's right, because our time is short. We need to stand up. The system's broken. If you want to know who the politicians are, look for the dollars that come from out of state. Look for the crooked dollars out of Washington and the crooked dollars out of Nashville. But if you want somebody that'll need a lot of help to get there, support me and vote for me on August 4th. Thank you, and God bless America.
Well, thank you, candidates. I mean, I wish every one of you could win.
And if you're not going to win in November, you're going to win somewhere else. And we appreciate all your hard work, all your honesty, all your attention to detail, and all of us together. And we have a little parting gift. We are going to give each one of you a Mullen Lobby sticker. Because we're from Tennessee, and we believe the Second Amendment means come and get them. Okay? Make sure that we can take our guns and keep our guns. And Hal Ronald is also going to present each candidate with their very own copy of the Constitution and their Declaration of Independence, just in case you need to make reference to it. So thank you all so very much for coming and spending time with us. And you know, we're not Fox Network. You can give those to Fox too. We're not Fox Network. We try to be nice, but not too nice. We just try to kind of keep things. And I'll let you just pass one of those down. Thank you. And I want to thank the audience for coming. You've shown real true grit here. We didn't have food. We didn't have water. We had nothing but candidates. So praise the Lord. Huh? Okay. Now we do have handouts on the table next to our donation jar. And it gives us when you can vote, when you can early vote, when you can register at the last time, for the last minute. There is a donation jar, I mentioned that. And we also have other ways, we have the list of all the current senators and congressmen from our district. And then the final page is a list of kind of voter websites where you can go and get more information. I shouldn't be talking to them, I'm going to talk to you. So please take one of those handouts and come back and see us. We'll probably have smaller forums for candidates who are interested as the months go on, as we kind of tick off till November. And then finally, I really want to thank Pastor Ken Culver for letting us meet here today. This is quite a church. The next big event is the NRA banquet. And that's going to be June 9th, right here. There will be no tickets at the door, so if you want tickets, talk to Pastor Ken Culver out there. And thank you very much, and thank you. Good night.